Okay, camera's rolling, audio's rolling.
All right, Paul.
Yes, hello.
If you could please state your name for the court and what your role is in Eelpout.
Absolutely. I'm Paul Kruse, and I am the playwright for Eelpout. So, Eelpout, the first draft of Eelpout I wrote in a writer's workshop in 2019. It was led by the brilliant Kirk Lynn in Austin, Texas. I was in grad school there. And the real truth is I was watching Letterkenny at the time, and I wanted to write a gayer version of Letterkenny. And so that's where it began. So much respect to Jerry Kiso and that whole franchise. I think it's brilliant and poetic and hilarious and messed up in interesting ways. But this definitely started as like an homage to that, as a writing exercise. And then what it became is a way for me to explore where I'm from, both geographically and sexually and gender-wise. It became a way for me to think about being a man from the upper Midwest and masculinity in the upper Midwest and what that means and what that looks like in its many, many different ways. I wrote the first draft and then I moved back home. I moved to Minnesota in 2020. And I found myself like in and among all the people who I grew up with. I have 3 brothers, 1 older, 2 younger. I've got soon to be 8 nieces and nephews. And so I was just like back with family. And it was wonderful in a lot of ways. And then also it was like, oh, this is where I grew up. This is, we went ice fishing all the time. I'm a white cis gay man, and this play is a way for me to think about and ridicule and question all of those identities, and also a way for, just very, selfishly, for me to explore how my gayness intersects with queerness. And I think of queerness as, for myself, and I think I'm not a scholar, but this has a scholarly tradition of thinking about the word queer as also being political and revolutionary and about ever expanding possibility, both in terms of what's possible within ourselves and our own identities, but what's possible between people. And for me, the surreal, the strange, the poetic on stage is often a way to explore political possibility and a way to explore social possibility and identity possibility. And so in the play, this is maybe a spoiler, but one of the characters falls in love with a fish, which in my mind became a way to think about what are ways of loving that are just fully outside of our understanding, or my understanding. I guess I have not yet fallen in love with a fish. So another thing that's very true about being a gay person who did not grow up in a large urban center. I grew up in a mid-sized city. I grew up in La Crosse, Wisconsin. A lot of the narratives that I received growing up in the 90s and early aughts was to be gay and happy and successful meant that you would have a heartbreaking coming out story in some fashion. You would move to an urban place, and the people who had already been living there would teach you how to be gay. And honestly, really, at that time, it was to be gay or lesbian. Those were like the available queer identities that I understood and had access to. And those stories often meant, especially if someone was coming from a rural experience, that you would move to a city and then experience real queerness. Coded into all of that is also wealth. The heroes of those stories would often come to an urban setting, and then the queerness and gayness was the same as wealth. All that to say, I was really interested in exploring what does queerness look like without an urban story? Because we're everywhere. We are everywhere. We have always been everywhere. And this doesn't even begin to touch indigenous stories of queerness that have been, in the places where I live now forever and here forever. But even within whiteness, there are people who have been living queer lives where I grew up for centuries. I'm interested in exploring what are versions of queerness, what are versions of deviant sexuality that can exist outside and have existed outside of cities. I'm not going to say this play is a faithful ethnography of one of those experiences, but in my mind, it's a fantasia upon that idea. This play became a way for me to mash together rural queerness, masculinity, and the strange and the beautiful. I like thinking about the word queer, again, not just as a political category, but as a verb and an invitation to strangeness and possibility. I notice in myself and my relationships with men, both romantic and social, that there are challenges in finding vulnerability. This is, of course, not true across the board, but I'm interested in how our training, how our gender training translates into the relationships that we're able to make as adults. I'm not interested in a pity story about men. Like, I feel like we're generally fine, that the problems that often get coded as the problem with male loneliness or male experience they're just problems we all deal with, actually, that and men deal with them with more money and access, so I don't know what we're talking about sometimes. But what I do think is true is that the people who in my life taught me how to be vulnerable and taught me how to cultivate and sustain relationships were all women or queer people. And so I'm sitting with that and thinking about, oh, yeah, I was very lucky. I'm very lucky to have known people that helped me access that thing. So when I think about Sven and Ole, I'm thinking about like male relationships that didn't have the benefit of that emotional training. And then also in terms of their romantic relationship, a lot of my early gay experiences were complicated by things like power and attention and boredom and alcohol and a big part of what I'm exploring with the two of them is, what are those early messy 20-something relationships? And maybe people can relate to this. Ole is a young man whose sexuality is attention. And I wonder if other people know people like that. So Eelpout started as a metaphor, as a concept. I think metaphors and concepts are really difficult to make characters. And what Eelpout has become is, I hope, a character with their own needs and agenda. Eelpout is an invitation into strangeness and otherness and wildness, and becomes a way in the play for Sven to access a part of himself that he didn't even consider possible. And without spoiling too much, Eelpout is how Sven is able to find a happy ending. Thanks to this brilliant cast and this brilliant group of artists that I get to work with here at Shattered Globe, that character has become so much more. At the same time, the story has become so much more. Y'all, I am so lucky. This is fantastic. I feel very, very lucky to be here at Shattered Globe. It's been a thrill to watch how Shattered Globe treats artists and how you work with the communities that you know well to make beautiful work. I got a chance to see Morning, Noon, and Night right when I got here, and it was a thrill. It was really a thrill to think that our work together might be a part of that same season. I think Eelpout is a story about transformation, because at its heart, it's a story about a man and a group of men learning how to become the full versions of themselves, whatever that means for them. And I think for our main character, Sven, and there are big parts for everyone, but I would argue that maybe Sven is the core of the play. For Sven, it's a journey to understanding that the journey's never over. His story is one, I hope, where we leave him in a place of expanding possibilities. First and foremost, I hope audiences have fun. I really think I am excited to create theater and help create theater that's pleasurable. I'm interested in big ideas. I'm interested in talking about important political concepts and realities, but I do think at its heart that what we do is we offer an hour, 2 hours to people when they can experience pleasure. I hope this play can become an invitation for audience members to think about those wild and expansive parts of their life that are yet to be explored. I would love if someone left this play thinking about what journeys they haven't taken yet in their own identity. Yeah, and to think about fish.